Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Show to Be with Mike G, the show of life, the show of Guadalajara, the show of the Seminary. That's right, I'm not Catholic, but if you want to learn more about being Catholic and priesthood, tune in with our conversation today with Roberto Núñez of Patrón Tequila, one of the national brand ambassadors. He's now living in Austin. I met him a couple times over the past few months. I heard great things about him. He has a litany of achievements and accomplishments, whether you look on LinkedIn or you just talk to him. And it was a great conversation about his life, and I suspect it hasn't quite been captured in this way. And I'm really proud of this conversation. There's a lot of ideas, a lot of themes here, especially as Roberto immigrated to the United States now as a green card. There's just so much here. It's a very, very rich conversation. So without further ado, I hope you all enjoy this great chat with Roberto Núñez of Patrón Tequila.
Consider both. I think more as my own personal history. I've been always living more in metropolitan areas, but I've been always connected to the land.
Yeah,
and you can see right now I'm connected to the agave world.
Right.
Back on the time in the seminary, I was not too connected to the agave. But funny thing is, we used to have this period that once a year we will go to, it's called Mes de Trabajo, that we will to learn how the people learn their salary, to make us more conscious about the reality of the world.
Wow.
We used to go and work. So, for example, I have a twin brother. My twin brother, he worked in the winery, but I work in a mine.
Really?
Yeah. So it was a mine of manganese, the second biggest mine of manganese in the world, which is in Pachuca, in Mexico.
Okay. Which state?
It's Pachuca.
Oh.
It's Hidalgo.
That's okay.
It's actually not in. It's a little northern from Pachuca. The state is Hidalgo. It's a place called Otongo.
Otongo, yeah.
And we were planting trees. That was my job.
Really?
It was horrible. It was fun to connect with the nature, but it was so hard.
Yeah. Well, it's hard because especially as you grow up, I don't think the virtues and how much I enjoyed nature hit me until later. We'd go on family camping trips and stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to be around my family. You know what I mean? Like when you're younger, you kind of revolt against that. So from Morelia, which you grew up, you moved a series of other places after that.
Yeah, I've been living in 13 cities in my life.
Throughout Mexico?
And when I say living, it's usually more than 3 years average. It's not used. I'm actually from Guadalajara. So my mom's side is from there, and I born in Guadalajara. But we moved to Morelia because my dad was a banker and he also studied business and finance. So he used to teach in the university. That's why my first relation to academia is through my dad. And after, so he moved to Morelia to a new position.
Yeah.
So we moved with him. And after from there, we lived there a couple of years. And after we decided, when I say we decided, it's not like I have this psychological problem. I have a twin brother.
Yeah.
So my brother and I, we joined the seminary. So we moved to Mexico City.
How old were you when you moved to Mexico City?
I was 11.
11?
That's when I left.
When did, I'm not familiar, can I assume Catholicism or is something?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to assume, but I just imagined, right?
I respect that.
Yeah.
I think you can fairly assume in most Spanish word that it will be related, or Irish word, like it will be related to Catholicism.
I would think.
Yeah.
But at 11, so it must be you know how you, at least in the States, you spend 4 years, you could do it faster, but you spend 4 years getting your undergraduate degree, which you've done other kinds of things. Yeah. I mean, you could do it in 3, but just for most of us, 4 years or above, right? But the seminary program, is it something that starts a much longer frame of time that you start, because you mentioned 11, is that when the classes start? Is that when the training begins, or is it later in life?
So you can choose. Back on the old tradition of the church, you can join since little. For example, I don't know, you heard this. I'm a philosopher for
I know you get 2 degrees.
So this is Thomas Aquinas, for example, he joined very little the seminary. So this tradition of joining very little, that was when I joined. Okay, more or less at 11, you start doing middle school, high school, and after that. But you can also join after high school.
Okay.
If you ask me my opinion right now, I will say people, if they are thinking to follow that way, they should join later. But I did what I did, and I can change it.
Well, because I find this so fascinating, because even in the States, I'm not sure that there's still a kind of an equal program. I mean, I used to live in Salt Lake City.
They are, because my school used to have, they still have a
like seminary. A sister city here?
Yeah.
Oh.
It used to, at one moment, they had 3. I know one in New Hampshire, Center Harbor, one in Sacramento, and one in Indiana.
Interesting.
They closed the New Hampshire and the Sacramento, but Indiana is still going on.
Really?
Yeah.
So at 11, you and your twin brother, you both decide to pursue this. I mean, were your parents shocked? Were they supportive? Because it's religion and it binds a lot of folks together. They might. I would imagine. I mean, my mom would have been sad if I left the city at 11. You know.
My mom was not too supportive at the beginning.
Yeah.
She actually told us like she didn't think it was the right thing.
Yeah.
My dad was very supportive, and at the end, both were supportive.
Yeah.
But
eventually,
my mom did tell us like she didn't think it was the right move.
Yeah.
My dad didn't say it; he supported, but I think it was difficult for them because my parents they still living and they are now old, but they couldn't have kids for the longest time. So my mom, when she got us, she was already 44. So they waited long time to have kids, and they wanted them. It's not like they were waiting.
Yeah.
And so they finally had kids, and these 11 years we go. So I know they suffered that, but they were always supportive.
When is it? All right. So again, as a layman or ignorant to the seminary outside of Mormonism, which I'm not Mormon, but I learned so much about it when I was living in Salt Lake City. So at what age normally do you must become a priest? Is that the cap? Is that kind of the degree? Is that the title that's bestowed upon you is being a priest, or is there another title that you have?
So there are different types of orders. The order I was, you had to be a priest.
Okay.
For example, there are the Franciscans. These you could choose if you want to be just a brother forever. Like St. Francis of Assisi, he was not a priest, or you want to be a priest. In my order, we had to be a priest.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the only way. So yes, eventually you will ordain. I got very close, but I didn't get ordained. Now, there is different levels of religious life. That's how it's called. And I got to the highest one that you can get, which is perpetual vows.
Okay, perpetual vows.
That you have them. And just to get rid of those, you had to have a letter from the Pope who absolve you from...
Wow.
Or the legal term, I don't remember, but it's pretty much that you are excluded of following that. You are not obligated anymore. So when I left, I had to go that. But
did you get the letter from the Pope? You got it. Do you get to keep the letter?
Yeah, I have it. I actually, in my case, it was from the representative of the Pope, not exactly from Pope.
But still, from the office of the Pope.
But exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. How old were you then when you realized?
That I had to leave or I had to join?
Well, I guess it was both, right? You're at a crossroads where either you do it or you don't do it, right?
When I joined, I was a kid. I was as mature as anyone. And what I wanted is just to enjoy my life. So I went and visited, and I realized these guys were playing. They have an amazing soccer field, pool. They play instruments, they spoke languages, they travel the world.
Yeah.
And that was all the things I wanted to do as a kid. So I decided I want to be this. In that moment, I didn't want to be a priest exactly, but I wanted to.
Those things seem really, exactly.
And after I do realize very fairly, like within a month, that I kind of want to be a priest, or I thought so.
Yeah.
So I start, but I didn't do a good discernment, I think so. That was just my path. And 15 years later, when I was 27,
wow.
I left. But I started around when I was 24 already with it took me like 3 years to leave.
Is it because of how much processing and paperwork it takes, or you were processing mentally?
It's mostly mentally.
Yeah.
There is, I wanted to make sure that I was doing the right decision.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain because you need to live it, but it's mostly how I explain it is when you go to college and you start waking up and you're thinking college just lasts 4 years, right?
Yes, right.
Imagine that your college lasts 20 years.
Right.
And you already were there for 15 years.
Yeah.
So you are almost done. But you start waking up saying like, I don't want to do this. I don't completely happy here.
Right.
But you are doing very well. Imagine you have a really good job.
Yeah.
Just think like all the priests in the world want to be in Rome. I was already there. I was already doing right.
Wow.
And suddenly I was like, I'm so comfortable here. I'm actually doing very well, but I don't want to be here.
Do you have, and I have this within me, I like learning and I like doing new things. Is part of something that drove you moved around a lot, you studied, and we'll talk about some of the degrees of which you've obtained, but is some of it that you always need to be moving forward and learning something new? Is that a part of how you live?
Yeah, I think this for me, actually, going back to, I was moving to many cities.
Yeah.
It happens to me that I get bored of cities very easily.
Really?
Because at one moment I feel like I'm not learning anymore. So it's connected. Like for me, I need to it's so important for me to live new experiences.
Yes.
And the reason is because I want to learn something. I want to know more. I'm curious.
Yeah.
So
there's a concept. I started to think about this because similarly, I moved about every 4 years when I was a child. And when I finally moved to Austin, it's a place I didn't mean to really set down roots, But I have this kind of saying that is, you can either build wide and horizontally, or you can stay in the same place and build up. Like it's New York, there's no real estate, right? So they have only one choice to go up. And so what I kind of chose with Austin is, even though I could move still, I tried to do as much as humanly possible here in this particular city, distillery, podcast, networking, class, all of these different things, right? And so for you, is that ever something that you've thought about? Because not that you can't move with a family, but establishing a family, you've been married for a few years now, you're in Austin. Do you ever think that there may be a place where you say, I'm going to set down roots and build up?
I will answer it in different ways.
Sure.
Like you say that there are two options, going up or going horizontal.
And I'm sure there's other stuff. Yeah.
So I would say like my mind is a little bit more going diagonal.
Okay.
Which is you can keep moving to other places, but you can still going up.
Yes.
So I feel like I'm not against settling in any place, but I'm also not against moving.
Yeah.
So for me, the place has never been the most important thing.
I see.
For me, the most important thing are other like who I am with, what am I doing, if I'm happy. Happiness for me is the key of the life.
Yes.
So I'm not. I'm ready to give up little things, which is in other ways comfort, like having your own house, having your own routine. I'm okay if I don't have that, if I'm doing other things that makes me more happy.
So leaving the seminary at 27, you said, when you first pursued philosophy, because you obtained 2 degrees and your master's as well, that was coursework that you were doing while being part of the seminary, or did you have to leave to pursue that?
No, I did it because of the seminary. I'm not sure if I will do it if I was.
You just had a choice. Okay.
Yeah, it's part of the rules of the Catholic Church to become a priest. You have to do at least 2 years of philosophy and 3 years of theology. This is the minimum, and this applies to anyone.
Oh.
But in our case, in this order, it was way longer. So we need to do at least a master's in each of those two.
I see. So is that where the neurolinguistics comes in from the seminary? No, or is that after?
That was after. And so I did, first I did master's, my minor in philosophy, and after I did master's in social ethics and
social ethics, okay.
And philosophy. That I decided to conclude that when I already knew I was leaving, but I asked my director in the moment, I asked him to, hey, you already know I'm leaving, but I'm like, I need 8 months more to finish my master's. Just let me stay. They let me stay. I finished it and I left.
I see.
And after when I left, you start from zero. And to the point that zero is like, I didn't know how to use a cell phone. I didn't know how to use a bank account. I didn't have them. You don't even know how to dress, because why would you? You never wear normal clothes. Yeah. So you have to learn many of those things from zero.
Yeah.
But I was like, what am I doing? I need to start making money. So I already have this philosophy background, which was kind of also directed because I did psychology a little bit to apply to spiritual directory if I had to do that. So I say, okay, I do this master in neurolinguistic programming, and I try to link my philosophy to be able to, if I did consulting.
I see, okay.
But funny thing, at that moment, on the middle of that second master, I was already doing insurance. So I applied the neurolinguistic to marketing and not to counseling.
Oh, I see. So again, now the trajectory makes a little more sense because you've really done a lot of different things, which obviously makes sense to you in terms of your narrative. There's 2 things that I don't understand the seminary's relationship with. So if you feel comfortable expressing that with me. 1, alcohol is fine, or is alcohol prohibited from the seminary? I'm not sure what that relationship is like.
No, actually, it's some people when ask me like, wow, it's so big change. You were a seminary and now you sell, or you work for a alcohol company. Yeah. And I was like, I do the same job. And is I used to work behind a bar, serving just wine and bread.
Yeah.
And I'm just my back bar is a little bit more diverse.
Yes.
So it's not just red wine.
So it's a pretty big part of I figured wine was, but I didn't know.
That was kind of a joke, but the thing is, if you think in our seminary we were allowed to, we could drink 1 glass of alcohol per meal.
I see.
Actually per day, because it was just on the lunch or dinner usually. But if you think about it, in the history of many of the things that we have right now, is thanks to monks.
Yeah, I was gonna say, who developed it, right? Champagne and
it's chartreuse. Every bartender do shots of that, and we love them. And chartreuse is actually not the name of the product; it's the name of the order.
That's
And they call it like that, as people don't think like people know as a booze. No.
Yeah.
Many of the beers we have is thanks to the monks. Many of the wine knowledge we have was carried through monks and orders.
Yeah, so you're right. I thought, but I didn't know, right? So I always ask because I try not to assume when I don't know a thing. Here's the other one that I don't know, and it could just be my ignorance. In the priesthood, again, I do not know the answer to this. Is there a vow of celibacy?
Yeah, I had it.
Probably until your late 20s.
Yeah, when you are in the religious life, which is the thing one of the divisions I was mentioning before, you have 3 vows: poverty, chastity, and obedience. And the chastity is the same of celibacy. So those are for everyone.
Yeah.
Nuns, brothers, some priests.
Yeah.
unless you are in the diocese, those guys, for example, like the priests who are in the diocese, they are not religious.
Oh.
Obviously, religious in the legal term, right? These guys, they have promises, but no vows.
I see. Okay.
So they don't have poverty, obedience. But in my case, my order has these 3 plus another 2, which it was one of charity, a vow of charity, and one vow of humility, was called.
Oh, I see.
And you need what it means is you never speak bad about somebody else, and you never try to get a position in the order.
I see.
If he gets a right, fine, but you don't work for it.
Do you think that? Again, really my frame of reference is more LDS people that I grew up with, partially, in the late 90s. Do you feel so here's the thing, here's the balance I find really interesting, is that you not only got to learn about the world in the seminary, you got to travel the world in the seminary. And to me, that would feel like, well, when you decide to leave, it's not because it's an act of rebellion. It's just that you want to explore more. Did you feel like there was any time to be made up for? Times in relationships, times experiencing romance, love, and these things, because for such a long time that was not a part of your life, outside of obviously the things that you studied and that you devoted time to.
Yes, I think I probably still, I don't feel it too strong now, but it was for a while I did feel that I had to make up.
Yeah.
All the experiences. Again, the experience part is a key word in my life. I have to experience way many things that I didn't. For example, like comparing with friends of my age, that sometimes, for example, I hear you refer in many of the podcasts to music and bands.
Yeah.
And there's something I have a gap in my life of many. But if I talk, it's not that I don't know about music. Also, I'm not talented in music, but I love music.
Sure.
But I don't know the bands, for example, Andrew Grants. This guy is amazing. A friend of mine from Nashville, Roland, he's also our brand ambassador.
Yeah.
They know every group. Yeah. My wife is a musician too.
Is she really?
Yeah, she plays piano.
Oh, cool.
And so know every band. For me, it's like, I don't know it.
Yeah.
But I can talk about you Gregorian chants and people who do Gregorian chants. Do you know about it? Usually people don't.
That's just as valuable, because it's a lot of modern, music even, because it goes back from classical romantic style and stuff. Baroque. I mean, that's all predicated on Gregorian chant. So I see value in it all. So you bring something to the table that I can't bring to the table, which I like that.
Yeah, but I do have gaps. I mostly in experiences, like for example, when I started dating, I just look at me look at how I was when I left. Yeah, I was so dumb. Just like, I know that I know everything now, but I still think like, oh man, like people have with me so much patience because I was so naive and ignorant.
I love that, because it obviously not the same story for me, but I never really thought I was much to look at. You know what I mean? So I'm coming into adulthood now is different at 43 and soon to be 44, but like I just never figured anybody like thought I was attractive. So I just like operated like, well, just, we're friends,
Yeah.
It's funny the kinds of things that we learn as we start to see the world more and we learn more about it. I saw you did recently for Tales of the Cocktail a panel with Alan Ruesga Pelayo.
Yeah, Ruesga Pelayo.
Thank you, from Bacardi. Oh yeah, I always forgot. You guys are on the same team, basically. All right, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, he is also from Guadalajara.
Yes, he's from Guadalajara. And I interviewed him. One of his first jobs, I think, was in D.C., where he was a server and didn't know how to speak English, and then learned. But I've been diving more into, because I'm not a Mexicano, and although I've been a stranger in many places I've lived, even as just like a white guy. Mm-hmm. There's something different about it, having a different culture that you bring to the table. And so the essence of the roundtable you did with Alan and some other folks is kind of how it feels to be an immigrant that comes in.
Yeah. So that's a very important topic for me, and I think it's something that I'm trying to focus my industry career in. So I came an L&D too as an immigrant to this country. Immigrant can mean many things, right? But we were illegal immigrants, which means like we don't have all the rights.
Yes.
Also because we probably didn't do it in the right way. But funny thing, not everyone gets the privilege of doing it in the right way.
Of course.
Sometimes you have to do it in not the right way to be able to do it. Otherwise, you don't do it.
Yeah.
So we came here with a visa. We were lucky to have a visa to start with. That's a privilege in Mexico. I think just the 4% of Mexicans can get, or 14%, I forgot.
Very small amount, yeah.
A very small amount get a visa to come to the States, just as a visit. So we already had that. I always had it since I was little, but I moved here. He moved before me, and we were working. But
were you in? Is Boston the first place?
Yeah, I moved to Boston, and that's a whole other story.
Sure.
But so I moved to Boston, and in that moment I have my insurance company, so I can work remotely. So I was not too much in a rush, but I was thinking to be in Boston just for 6 months, just experience life here, and I fell in love with the city. I fell in love with the experiences I was having, so I stayed there. But that was not supposed to happen.
Sure.
And I wasn't supposed to work. And even if I have to masters, or even if I have what I consider a good education, nobody will give me a job.
It doesn't matter, right? Yeah.
But the only industry who welcomed us was the restaurant life. And in that moment, you see many stories, many stories. And somehow Alan and myself, we are very fortunate that we already overcome those difficulties, and we fix our situation, and we now have a green card, and we have a voice. We are not worried that somebody will
send you
back. I'm still worried. I'm not a citizen. I'm actually in my green card, so I can still be denied.
Yeah.
But for years, I was waking up with the fear of that could be my last day in the States.
Yeah.
To the point, and I was telling that story, that one day I had like 6 months in the States, and I was working in this restaurant, which was kind of a fine, but this type of place that does well, but they done stuff completely. So you are kind of a server, bar, back, hostess, everything at once, almost managing. And I was suddenly somebody came in, and I was behind the front desk, but I was serving, and it was a cop, and I was terrified. I just wanted to. I was thinking that this person was coming looking for me.
Right.
I was terrified, and this cop, you say, "Can I use your bathroom?" And I was I was so afraid, because also in Mexico you are afraid of cops.
That's right.
And he said, but that was something that many people right now is waking up every day in the industry. And we live in an industry that sometimes the people who makes it great doesn't get the recognition.
Exactly.
And so I do feel that now that I'm lucky enough to be in this position, that I can already say things and express without fear of being deported, that now I had to talk for all these people that cannot.
That's right.
So how we name of the seminary, it was Flavors of Immigration.
Yeah.
That is related to flavors of the kitchen, but also how it tastes to be an immigrant, and stories that need to be heard.
Yeah.
There are so many of those stories.
Something that I go to Mexico regularly, and I always want to make sure with my privilege that I can capture the voices of people that don't have that same privilege, or maybe they do, but they don't have the same means. This is not a conquistador thing. I'm not trying to save anybody, right? But I really deeply love people, and so whatever stories I can capture, I really enjoy. And so we can even hear a little bit of it. You hear like a little hammer knocking kind of down the road here. And my road, this is a neighborhood from the 80s. It's fine. I like it, but I saw single-handedly how they installed Google Fiber in this road and this whole neighborhood.
It's called Goober?
Google.
Okay.
I messed it up.
I think it's a great word. You should sell that. Google Fiber Goober. I think it's great.
It's like Google and Uber combined. You can go get a search via car. I don't know how this works. But I watched them tear this road up. I'm very familiar with dig bars, having digged up agave and having dug up sotol. And so I look at all of this, right? And I see the young Mexicanos breaking this soil down, breaking the asphalt down. And all I was like, I just was breathing it all in. And I'm like, I know that this is what this privilege of having high-speed internet all is built on. So you talk about the industry of hospitality, cocktails, all of it. It is built on the backs of immigrants. And many of us that have enough privilege, we just turn our back and we don't want to acknowledge that that's where this came from. I know how hard it is to dig with a dig bar, especially in my front yard because I've done it before. These kids are out here doing this thing. You see them all working really hard. And we never look back to say, oh shit, this thing I enjoy every day was built on the backs of immigrants. And I imagine now that you've got more of a platform, you have this great role with Patrón. Does it feel like something you are obligated internally to make sure that you help the voices being heard?
Yes, I think I have a moral responsibility to do so.
Yeah.
It's just, I wouldn't be happy with me in future years if, I don't know how long is lasting this ride.
Yeah.
But while I have it and when I have the microphone in front of me,
yeah.
I want to use my power to help.
Yes.
And I want to say something. When you say that you go to Mexico and you try to put the microphone and recognize all these people, and you say something like, I don't want to be the conquistador. Believe me, as a Mexican, and I say this every Cinco de Mayo, most of Mexicans, we are happy that you do that. And all the Mexicans will love if you go to Mexico and do that. We don't see it exactly like a conquistador thing.
Yeah.
The sensitivity that exists in the US is very different, and sometimes I don't think it's fair because some people wants to be recognized, not erased.
That's right.
And sometimes we just erase the names of some people because we don't want to offend them.
Right.
But sometimes when you take them out of the notebook, you're actually doing it's unfair for these people.
I appreciate you saying that. I won't say what I am, but I put a lot of content out. And I tried to be careful to navigate accordingly. And having been at the middle of some sotol controversy, even though it was something I've been doing for years and no one noticed until someone's like, oh, well now it's important that he shouldn't do that, whatever. So I just want to be sensitive. And I know exactly what you mean. But the bottom line is I love Mexico and I love Mexicans. And something that I say this kind of like casually in conversations with people, in Texas, if you say Mexican, depends who you are that's saying it. You know what I mean? Because like, oh, those Mexicans. But like for me, it's like, no, like all my close friends they're Mexican. They're not Venezuela. I mean, Jesus, he's Venezuela. They're not Latino. Maybe both, but they're Mexicanos. And so I say that and I'm like, no, I'm proud because I love Mexico. And I love the people that I've met and how much kindness I've experienced. So anyway, I appreciate that. Not that I have to detail that out, especially on my own podcast, but it is important for me. And I'm glad that you are taking your visibility and your success and allowing it to sprinkle on to others and make sure that their stories are told. We share that certainly in common. Among all the places that you've lived, though, why Boston? I love Boston, don't get me wrong. And my beautiful partner, Kay, she was a bartender out there for a while. She loved Boston as well. But you couldn't win anywhere. Was it a girl?
No.
Okay,
Actually,
that's normally what...
Actually, I moved thanks that it was not a girl. So I moved because when I left Italy, that I lived there many years, my parents are old. So I could stay in Italy, and I thought about it, but I already lived in Europe for 7 years. So I was like, I need to explore somewhere else, and I didn't want to just go back to Mexico. So I was invited by my godfather and godmother that live in La Habra Heights in California to go and live with them. But I didn't want to because they are very religious and a little too much, and I was just living that life. So I wanted to say I want to explore something else. But in Mexico, I got to Mexico, I fell in love with this other girl, and I didn't leave. When we broke up, a friend of mine moved to Boston, and he came back and told me about it. Like, oh, Boston is great. He was a really successful accountant in Guadalajara.
Yeah.
And but he moved to Boston. So for me, it was like super weird because he had the best job of all of us.
Yeah.
At that moment, I was like, why did you move there? He told me, yeah, I work in the industry. I'm just a server. And I was like, what? Why would you do that? And at that moment, I didn't know he was gay. And he didn't come close. So one of the reasons he did is because in Guadalajara, coming out is not that easy.
Right.
I think in general in Mexico, but in Guadalajara specifically, and his family. So he had to move there. Anyway, he was living in Boston, and I was like, I'm moving to Boston. I was just for him. Being honest, if this guy moved to, I don't know, to Seattle, and he told me, probably I will be in Seattle. It was just like that. But I love Boston, and
it's a great spot.
So many things about to say. The weather is not great,
right?
But something I love about Boston is very cultural, very educated.
Yeah.
So the guests that you have at the bar is always interesting conversations.
Yeah.
Very elevated. And also it's a huge rotation of people every year with the students and people who is just doing their post grad school and so on.
Yeah.
So that all that rotation makes it every 2-3 years is a new city.
I love that. I think that's a really important thing, especially for you who's so interested in other people, other cultures. Did you imagine yourself getting married when you were younger? Obviously, it's probably an interesting notion because you were part of the seminary, right?
Yeah, that's something I never think about it. I think at one moment probably did imagine I don't remember, to be honest. I will think that yes, I did imagine when I was little before I joined the seminary to be married. And when I was in the seminary, definitely my eyes were in another life, not getting married. But I felt that the last 3 years when I was deciding, I definitely thought about it. Like I want to get married.
What about children? Is that important to you?
Children is something that is important for my wife, and she's important to me. I'm not against them, so I actually think we probably will have them. But it's something that one day I wake up saying, that will be nice, and another day say, like, I'm so happy I don't have kids.
Yeah.
And I don't have anything against kids,
no,
but I enjoy my life how it is, and I don't know if that's selfish to say it, but it's
I don't think it's selfish, but everybody, people have asked me for whatever reason. I think they just don't want to get in confrontation with me because about kids. So no one's ever said, "Well, why don't you want to have kids?" And I'm like, "I'll give you a litany of reasons if you want." So I don't think it's selfish to think about yourself, because only when you're good could you even be able to take care of others.
I agree.
So it's kind of one of those things that's foundational to even wanting to have kids.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's, for example, like people ask me, do you have a pet?
Oh.
It's like, no, I don't have pets. I love dogs.
Yes.
Actually, if I could have a pet, I would have a horse. That's
my really?
Favorite. But I don't, because it will be responsible. I have traveled so much that I wouldn't put the care that a dog needs.
Yes.
So it will be responsible for me. And also, it's so pricey to just put it in, like, whatever is the daycare or whatever they have.
Yeah, doggy daycare.
And after, if they get sick or whatever, it's just like I probably couldn't even afford it. You know? Like,
did you have any perception about Patrón before you joined the team?
Yeah, it's funny, like we are already talking a lot and we haven't even talked about Patrón.
But see, this is the thing, right? So my whole strategy always is, if people buy into you, then the brand doesn't matter. They'll buy into the brand because they like you. As I'm sitting here doing pantomimes with my fingers and stuff. But that's like what's really important to me is that your story is known, because I'm sure you'll have an illustrious career with Patrón, and I love David and I love Granzi and all the folks over there. But maybe someday you do something else. So this piece, your story will always remain the same, despite which brand you work with. So it feels, everybody that they speak really highly of you on the team, you know? And so I'm just curious what you thought of them before even joining the team.
So one of the reasons I got hired, and I will start with this, I think is that I was very transparent on my way when I say what I was thinking about Patrón. And some things I didn't think very highly, before joining Patrón. So when I moved from Mexico to the States, and I was a bartender in the States, the whole way of serving alcohol changes.
Yes.
One of those is Patrón wasn't distributed in Mexico.
I didn't know that, actually.
At that moment, when I moved here to in actually exactly 8 years ago, in December 13 of 2015. And when I moved here to Boston, I was coming from Guadalajara.
Yeah.
I consider myself a tequila connoisseur. Not deeply, but I knew things. I knew brands, and Patrón, I knew it just when I was traveling through the States.
Yeah.
And so I came here and I was like, that's a gringo tequila. And when I say gringo tequila, I know tequila cannot be produced outside of Mexico, but it's tequila that is just made for gringos, because they just take it, they experience it, and sorry for my French, but anyway, that's what I thought. And after I start serving it, so if you sat at my bar and you say, oh, you're a Mexican, you're from Guadalajara, could you suggest me a tequila? I wouldn't usually suggest Patrón. Why? Because I was just not familiar. And funny thing, I flew from Mexico here when I moved with 2 bottles of tequila in my bag, but they were not Patrón. So I moved to the States, and I was always suggesting the same brands. And one day I tried Roca. That's when, and I never tasted before. And I used to like, this thing is so good.
Yeah.
And after I started learning what they did with their employees, and that's way before I have anything to do with Patrón. And I just learned what they were doing with the employees in a Totonilco. I was like, I love the juice. Yeah. It is great. It tastes better than many other juices that I used to preach about it. And I love how they treat my people in Guadalajara. So I kind of already start like not having trouble. I wasn't too completely pro, but I wasn't against anymore. And after I joined Patrón Perfectionist and the competition, and that's when I learned more and I kind of fell in love. But I did tell, and I owe my job to Dave Villan. He was the one who got me here. But one of the things I say is, check, I think Patrón needs to be more Mexican.
Interesting.
And I don't know if that's what got me into Patrón. I was not trying to open the door for me. I was trying to be, because that was after I competed in Patrón Perfection. I was just trying to give a little bit of feedback to a brand I already like. And I thought it could benefit from that comment. But
how long have you now been with Patrón?
Officially 2 years, and officially almost 3.
Wow.
And is unofficial, I say, because since Patrón Perfection is, I competed, and after I start, some reason they like me, so David.
Some reason they like me. Okay, this vow of humility is coming in again, right?
The thing is, I don't think I'm the most knowledgeable guy.
It's not about that, though.
Okay. Anyway, they start inviting me to do events. So I started participating in different things with Patrón, and that's how I eventually just joined Patrón.
And that's what landed you in Austin, or were there other options where you would live?
So funny thing is, I choose Austin because I like Austin.
Oh, okay.
I love Formula One. That's my sport right now.
Yeah.
So I came here to Formula One with my wife, and we just look at each other and say, I can totally live here.
Yeah.
That was before we could even live here. So a year later, I joined Patrón, and they told me like, hey, you will be traveling a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Boston is a little inconvenient because it's in the corner. So if you want to relocate, it's fine. So I was like, Austin.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I could choose Dallas, Houston, or even Chicago, even Denver, who were better for traveling purposes. Sure. But I was like, no, I want to be in Austin.
It's amazing. So with you, does your wife travel for work as well?
She doesn't. She travels very little, but she works in tech.
Oh, okay.
So we also thought about that Austin is a tech company, or a tech city, sorry. We thought that this was not just a move where I could win, but it could be like a win for her too.
Yeah, good.
Eventually.
Like a kind of a mutual thing.
Yeah.
I haven't, it's funny, like I have been married and stuff like that, but I never was in a situation where I was traveling a lot for work and to see what kind of stress or what kind of positive space that kept for the relationship. Is it good? When my dad was traveling a lot and my mom was at home, she liked it. She likes that space, she really enjoyed when he was traveling around. And now that he's retired, like, it's a little tougher on her, but is that space good, generally speaking, for you to be traveling, or is it something that you really have to address kind of delicately when you're back in town?
We have to address it. It's a little challenge. I think relationships is about to learning how to grow up together and adequate to the situations.
Yeah,
that's about, because every day there is something new, and so far she my wife is Cara. She has been super supportive with what I do, but she does suffer because she personally is somebody who is more she likes more presence, physical contact.
Sure.
She also passed during pandemic that from going to the office every day.
Yeah.
I mean, you know that.
I know this,
to be remotely 100%. And she, even if she's an introvert, she hasn't been seeing humans in 3 years. Also,
right.
I mean, she does, but
No, but I get what you mean.
No, from her office. So sometimes she's a whole week in the house just by herself.
Yeah.
And after I come back from a week of traveling the world, and every day is, since I wake up at 7, I work 18 hours a day, just with people. And I'm more an extrovert. But I come back home and I just want to sit in the couch. Nobody talks to me. Right. I just want to be with me. And she, even if she's an introvert, she's just, let's go out.
Yeah,
something.
That's so funny.
So it is challenging.
Of course, there's a balance to be struck, and I'm sure that you'll find that. But I always find, I love people and I love relationships. Even if I haven't been so good at them in the past, I'm better now, But I always like to understand how people, and because I'm such a big believer in love and all of that, how people work together, So I find I can understand the challenges that you're talking about. And I know that you'll find some kind of way to make those all work for you. But speaking of travel, this is the 2-day period you have free that we've tried to do this, I think, for like a month now, which is crazy. But you were in Vail? Was that just personal, or was there an event?
So yeah, Vail, it was a vacation.
Oh, okay.
Vail was...
you ski?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay.
It's funny because... I'm the Mexican of the family, but I'm the one who skis. And I actually learned for the first time I ski was when I was 29. So
really? Where did you learn?
In Loon, New Hampshire.
Oh, okay.
It's one of the decent mountains in the East Coast. The best mountain in the East Coast. It will be the worst mountain in the West Coast.
Right.
but yeah, I learned in Lund. And I think it was good that I learned in the East Coast because it's all icy and difficult. So now I think it's a little easier for me.
Yeah, working in because I again spent all that time in Salt Lake City. We go skiing every weekend, so I would ski.
I'm jealous.
Yeah, like Sundance and Brighton and all these things. But it scared me one day. There was ice on the slope rather, and I twisted my knee, and I was like, because I was young, and I was like, I don't know, but like putting my legs at risk for all of this.
It is not a safe sport. It's like
it can mess you up.
Yeah. Every time I go skiing, my goal is to have fun, but first is to just come back, not injured. And
you like to run as well, right? You've seen some marathons over the years that you've run.
Right now I'm super out of shape, but yes, I do like running. Yeah.
Have you noticed? Because I reckon you're probably in your mid-30s, something like that.
Yeah, I'm 37.
There we go. So I'm just a touch older than you. But have you noticed those changes in your body as you're on the road more, and then your gig, whether you choose to drink or not, is obviously up to you. But there's more alcohol, there's more food, there's less rest. Has it been more difficult to adapt to that physically?
Yeah, some things they've been. Mostly, I'm usually a very organized person.
Yeah.
And I like routines, and I like even in my diet.
Yeah.
So being in the road is always like you don't even know when you're eating again. So is drink water whenever you can, eat whenever you can, because you don't know when it's next.
Yeah.
And now you hear me, I'm giving a little vacation to my liver, but also I realize that I don't have the same endurance that I used to have.
Really?
Drinking alcohol back on the days. So I need to be more careful about that too.
Again, Sam, been in this industry quite a while. A lot of it's involved drinking that I've quite enjoyed. Actually, I've always enjoyed what I chose to drink. So I don't take shots really, So it's always like high quality stuff. But I'll share a thing personally. I had only a couple of folks know this. I got my blood work back the other day. And in my head, I'm thinking, oh my God, my liver, those enzymes are going to be so messed up, right? They were fine. And I was like, wait. What's going on here, right? But I eat so cautiously and so tightly, right? And I had no idea how much that relieved my liver, eating 3 fresh veg a day, mostly vegan, but I've got nothing against meat and stuff. And it's just weird as you get older, our bodies change.
Yeah.
Do you find, and I'm getting just about 2 questions left for you besides this, it sounds like you're able to, when you get home and you're not working, you're able to turn it off. Is that fair to say?
No, I need to be better. I need to be better at that. I'm somebody who always is looking to the goal. I'm very competitive. And so when I'm home, I rest when I know I don't have something else to do.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So the fact that I know, for me, the hours day is very relative.
Yeah.
If I know I have to do something, it's in my mind.
I see.
And I need to be better sometimes.
Compromise? Yeah.
No,
compartmentalize.
That.
Yeah. It's a tough one. It's hard for me to say. It's like 3. I tried to record it on the mic the other day. I was like, it took me 10 takes to just say compartmentalize,
Okay. To put it into different compartments.
Yeah, there you go.
So I need to be better at that.
Yeah.
I think I'm getting better. I just think I'm not great.
It's something that we all can get better at. I really check out from work when I'm not there. I don't know why, but I think it's because I can compartmentalize.
Yeah.
been practicing that for a long time. So last question for you is, it doesn't matter which Patron you're tasting. And again, I had this privilege of going to Kinfolk with David Rodriguez. He was taking us, and David Allen brought some of these old kind of beautiful bottles.
I know.
And you were out of town. Were you meant to be there, I imagine, right?
Yes, I left that morning. I helped creating that event.
Oh man, it was something really special. So I'll be a little more pointed with my question. So you're anywhere in the world, doesn't matter where, but you're drinking the sherry cask finished Patron, batch number 3, which is my favorite. This isn't about me, it's about you. But anyway, that's my favorite. And you could have this tequila with any musician living or deceased, who would you like to have a conversation and a tequila with?
Musician.
Well, we could do writer too. I think you're probably quite well read.
Yeah, writer is definitely easier for me. Being honest, I know that I will drive out from here and I will thinking like thousand great answers. Yeah. And now I was like, why I don't have anything in my mind. Writers. I will tell you one of the... I can think in different. Yeah. I would say the first one who's coming to my mind, Tolkien.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because I've been recently in the last week, I've been watching the movies and reading a little bit about Lord of the Rings, and I was a big fan. But I can tell you Aristotle. Some people like have you so many questions to ask that is more about like need answers about what they wrote.
Yes. Aristotle. I love that.
And now I need to think of a musician.
Well, you don't need to do it now, but I like that question because what I'm consuming and listening to and watching always kind of affects my answer. And I think people have asked me that twice over the past 8 years. You know, I ask a question and you know, that's not an invitation for you to ask me necessarily, but so it's hard for me to think too, you know, but it always happens to be something right after I saw something else.
Yeah.
You know, but Roberto, I'm glad that we met. I'm glad I saw you at Holiday. I read you get those LinkedIn recommendations. And to paraphrase one that I found particularly moving, I can't remember the name of the person. It could be family. I don't know. But they said, Roberto is capable of anything. And that is quite moving. And I really feel intellectually, professionally, it seems like you're able to do just about anything. And I think the feedback that other people have given me and stuff about you is actually just perfect.
That's on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I'll show you right.
I wonder who is. It's funny, you read that, that's literally my best friends.
I'm sure.
Those guys were who wrote that. So I'm happy to have them. But I haven't looked at my LinkedIn in ages.
It's just one of those things that's easy for me, you know.
But no, thank you for this opportunity. It's an honor. I just saw all the people you hosted here, and I'm like, am I on that level? Like, what am I taking this spot? But I'm really happy now that we are in touch too. Yeah. Holiday, you know, I live exactly behind Holiday.
I know.
So if you are there, let me know. I'm happy to grab a drink.
I love it. When are you planning on, and I think this is great to give your liver a break, when are you planning on returning to form?
So the thing is, I didn't decide to drink because I didn't decide to stop drinking because I'm against alcohol. It's just because I wanted to feel better. So I could be even today, it could be tomorrow. I don't have...
Whenever you feel right.
Yeah.
I like that.
I live in the day, and I know I'm going to pass holidays, Christmas with my family in Mexico. It's first time we get together in 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And I my brother from Spain, he's coming. He's a priest, my twin brother.
Wow.
So he's coming to Mexico, to Guadalajara. So I think I might be drinking there.
I love that.
Yeah, my family, all of us, I think my dad was the one who taught us how to drink since we were little. So for us, drinking and eating is not about just drinking and eating. It has a big. It means a lot for us.
Yeah, I love that. No better way to save it in the chamber, so to speak. Roberto, thanks so much for chatting with me.
Thank you, man.
Hopefully we'll talk soon. Cheers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cheers. Thank you. Well, there we have it. Roberto Núñez, one of the national brand ambassadors for Tequila Patrón. Really a good chat. You know, the only real kind of seminary experience that I have is when I was living in Salt Lake City. I kind of talk about that. And I'm just really curious about it, right? If that's what you want to do with your life, absolutely do that. If you want to be an artist, do that. If you want to be an influencer, don't really do that. You want to be a chef. You want to be a father, a mother, all of these things. And so there's some passion there. in his journey. And it's really interesting to see, one day we wake up sometimes and we think life is just different today. I want to explore more. I want to be more curious. And then it takes us on a whole completely different direction. And it's amazing to see Roberto working with the great team at Patrón. Again, as I mentioned in the conversation, I've never got $1 to talk about Patrón. That's not how I work. I really love the team. I love the tequilas, and I recently have written about it. So it is a thing for me. And Roberto's story is so riveting, and I'm really, really proud. This is one of those interviews I'm really proud, is that it's such a beautiful story, serpentine, with so many different details, and maybe no one's captured it before. So I'm really proud. So Roberto, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with me. I hope to see you soon. And thanks everybody for listening to Show to V with Mike G. Christmas is just around the corner. Whatever holiday you celebrate, I'd love to have a dram with you. I hope you have happy holidays. And even if you're getting stuck watching all these Master Chef reruns, please keep dancing.